Feeling stuck in a never-ending cycle of financial struggles? You're not alone, and there are some common traps that keep people from breaking free. Today, I'm going to show you how to break free from poverty with these 10 proven strategies. And as someone who went from struggling financially to building multiple successful businesses, I've learned what works and what doesn't. Let's dive into 10 proven strategies that can transform your financial future. Before we get into specific tactics, let's talk about the foundation of financial success. The first and most crucial step is rewiring what I call your monetary imprint gene. And think about it. We're not born with beliefs about money, but our early experiences shape everything about how we handle finances. Let me share a personal story. Growing up, my father would routinely say things like the wealthy are a bunch of swindlers and crooks. When I asked about getting a dirt bike, the response was always, we can't afford it, or money doesn't grow on trees. These messages sank deep into my subconscious, and I actually found myself repeating them to my own kids years later. Here's a perfect example of how deep these beliefs run. My father once bought this beautiful 140-acre property in southeastern Oklahoma. It had everything: rolling hills, rock canyons, perfect hunting grounds, even a spring-fed pond full of largemouth bass. He worked tirelessly to improve it, but because of his beliefs about wealthy people and their motives, he ended up in a devastating conflict with a neighbor that almost cost him his life. Now, that experience shaped my own fears about real estate investing for years. But here's the wild thing. These weren't facts. They were just programmed beliefs that were keeping me stuck. I remember standing in my garage surrounded by a yellow sports boat, a Corvette, and a fully loaded Tahoe, all financed to the hilt. And on the outside, I looked successful, but inside, I was terrified of financial ruin. Why? Because my inherited beliefs about money were sabotaging me. Let me tell you about my friend Chad. At 23, he inherited $500,000. But because he grew up with the same middle-class mindset about money, he blew through it all in just 2 years. Now he's back working paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because he didn't have the internal blueprint to handle wealth. The breakthrough came when I realized I had to rewire my brain, not just my spending habits. I started catching myself when those old thoughts crept in. Instead of telling my kids we can't afford it, I learned to ask how we can afford it. That simple shift in thinking opened up a whole new world of possibilities. Here's what I want you to do right now. Grab a piece of paper and write down every money message you heard growing up. What did your parents say about wealthy people? How did they react when bills came in? These messages formed your money blueprint, but here's the empowering part. You can choose to rewrite that blueprint starting today. Remember, millionaires aren't born with different money beliefs. They consciously choose to think differently about wealth, and that's exactly what you need to do first. But mindset alone won't pay the bills. You need knowledge to back it up. And before we dive in, smash that like button and subscribe if you want more content about breaking free from poverty and building real wealth. Let's get started with number 2. Let's talk about financial education. And I'm not talking about what you learned in school. Here's a shocking truth. I'm a pharmacist with a doctorate degree, and guess what? None of that expensive education taught me how to actually build wealth. Let me share something that blew my mind. In 2014, I was making over $140,000 a year as a pharmacist, but I was still living paycheck to paycheck. Even worse, I was drowning in debt from all those status symbols I mentioned earlier. Here I was, this supposedly educated professional, and I had no idea what I was doing wrong. That's when it hit me. Having letters after your name doesn't mean you understand how money really works. I'll never forget when I first read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and learned that my house wasn't actually an asset. It was a liability. Everything I thought I knew about money was backwards. The real education started when I began learning about the difference between good debt and bad debt, how to make money work for me instead of just working for money, understanding taxes and how to legally minimize them, and the power of passive income through real estate and business. Here's a perfect example. I used to think my 401k was the golden ticket to retirement. Then I learned how those management fees were eating away nearly a third of my returns over time. Nobody teaches you that in school. And don't even get me started on the myth of free money from employer matching. Did you know employers typically reduce salaries to offset those matches? The wealthy understand these concepts because they seek out knowledge. They read books, attend seminars, and find mentors. They're constantly learning about money. And here's what's crazy. This education is available to everyone, but most people are too busy working for money to learn how money works. Start with one book, one concept, 1 hour a day. That's how real financial education begins. But all of this knowledge is useless unless you know exactly what you're working toward. Let me share something powerful about setting financial goals. Back in 2015, I stood in my bathroom closet feeling a bit silly as I stared at a declaration I had pinned above my mirror. I, JD, do hereby commit to becoming a millionaire or more by January 2020. Every morning I'd put my hand over my heart, look into that mirror, and declare it out loud while my wife would sometimes chuckle at my proclamation potty ritual. You know what's funny? At first I felt completely ridiculous doing this. I mean, here I was, a grown man talking to myself in the bathroom. But I had learned from my mentors that this kind of declaration, this daily commitment to your goals, actually rewires your brain. It's not just positive thinking. It's programming your mind for success. But here's what's incredible. I hit that goal in 2016, almost 4 years ahead of schedule. Why? Because I had discovered my true why. Mine wasn't just about money. It was about my son, Tyler, who was born with special needs. I had no idea if he would conquer the challenges he was born with or if it would be a lifetime battle for all of us. The thought that kept me up at night was, who will take care of him when we're gone? And that's the kind of goal that gets you moving, that pushes you past your comfort zone. Let me tell you something most people get wrong about goal setting. They focus on the what without understanding their why. They say things like, I want to make 6 figures or I want to own a big house. But those aren't goals that will get you out of bed at 5 a.m. to work on your business. They're not goals that will keep you going when things get tough. Here's what I want you to do differently. Instead of just writing down, I want to be rich, write down your perfect day. I mean everything. Where you wake up, what your bedroom looks like, what you eat for breakfast, who you spend time with. And this exercise reveals what you're really working toward. Trust me, it's way more powerful than just picking a random number. And here's a pro tip. Review your perfect day description every morning. Put it right next to your mirror like I did with my declaration. And let it be the first thing you see every day. Because when your why is strong enough, the how takes care of itself. Now that we know where we're going, let's talk about what's holding us back. Let's get real about debt. I remember sitting in my garage back in 2007 staring at my credit card statements and feeling like I couldn't breathe. I was making $140,000 a year as a pharmacist. And you know what? I was still drowning in debt. But here's what most people get wrong. They focus only on cutting expenses without thinking about increasing income. Let me paint you a picture of how bad it was. I had a bright yellow 26-foot sport boat sitting in my driveway. I even named it Wet Dream. Yeah, I know. What was I thinking? But in my 3-car garage, I had a yellow Corvette with a 6-liter, 400 horsepower engine, fully loaded Tahoe LTZ, and a collection of dirt bikes. And on the outside, I looked successful. My friends were in awe, but on the inside, I was terrified of financial ruin. And quick story, I used to think my fancy car made me look successful. Plot twist, it was actually keeping me from real success. The pressure of maintaining this fake image was literally crushing me. I finally reached my tipping point and did something drastic. I filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Talk about a wake-up call. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of just cutting expenses, I started thinking differently. When I downsized to a more modest home, I didn't sell my old house. I turned it into a rental property. Now, someone else was paying my mortgage while I built equity. That's what I mean by thinking about increasing income, not just cutting expenses. Here's what I want you to understand. There's a massive difference between looking wealthy and building wealth. That Corvette in my garage, that was just an expensive illusion. Real wealth comes from assets that put money in your pocket, not toys that drain your bank account. Speaking of bad financial decisions, let's talk about one of the biggest traps out there. Let me tell you about the most dangerous trap I see people fall into when they're struggling financially. Predatory loans. You know the ones I'm talking about, those fast cash places with the bright neon signs promising to solve all your problems. But payday loans are like financial quicksand. The harder you try to get out, the deeper you sink. Let me share a story that still breaks my heart. One of my pharmacy customers, let's call him Mike, needed $2,000 for emergency medical bills. He walked into one of those payday loan places thinking he'd pay it back with his next check. What they didn't clearly explain was the 400% annual interest rate. 6 months later, he paid over $3,000 in fees alone and still owed the original $2,000. He was working 2 jobs just to keep up with the interest payments. This is the trap that keeps so many people stuck in poverty. But here's what most people don't know. There are much better options out there. For instance, credit union loans. These guys actually want to help you succeed, not trap you in debt. I've seen interest rates 10 times lower than payday loans. Side hustle opportunities. Listen, even driving for Uber a few hours a week beats paying predatory interest rates. Community lending circles. Now, these traditional lending groups might sound old school, but they've helped millions build credit and avoid predatory lenders. Negotiating with creditors. Most creditors would rather work out a payment plan than lose everything. I've personally seen credit card companies cut interest rates in half just because someone asked. Here's my golden rule about emergency money. If someone's making it easy to get a loan, read the fine print twice. Those simple looking payments usually hide a devastating long-term cost. But you don't have to figure all of this out alone. Here's something most people don't realize. There are legitimate organizations dedicated to helping people build financial stability. And I'm not talking about those late night TV scams promising to eliminate your debt for pennies on the dollar. Let me share something that happened after my bankruptcy. I was feeling lost, embarrassed, and honestly, pretty hopeless. Then I discovered a nonprofit credit counseling service that completely changed my perspective. Instead of judging me, they helped me create a realistic plan to rebuild. But here's what really blew my mind. All their services were completely free. I ended up meeting John, one of their counselors, who shared something I'll never forget. He said, most people wait until they're drowning to ask for help. And the smart ones come to us while they can still touch the bottom. And he was right. And that's why I now tell everyone about these specific resources. Nonprofit credit counseling services. They can negotiate with creditors on your behalf and help create a manageable payment plan. Financial literacy programs. Many offer free workshops on everything from budgeting to investing. Local business development centers. These places are a goldmine for entrepreneurs. Free business planning, mentoring, and even help finding grants. The key is finding legitimate organizations. Here's my quick test to spot the good ones. They never charge upfront fees. They're registered nonprofits, and they offer free initial consultations. They have a physical location you can visit. They've been around for at least 5 to 10 years. They provide education, not just quick fixes. Think of these organizations like financial GPS systems. They won't drive the car for you, but they'll help you avoid the wrong turns that could cost you years of detours. And while we're talking about resources, let me share something that surprises most people. Listen, I need to address something that keeps a lot of people stuck. This misguided pride about using community and government resources. Let me tell you a story that changed my whole perspective on this. After my bankruptcy, I met a successful business owner who shared something surprising. He told me his multi-million-dollar construction company started with a free government-sponsored training program. People have too much pride to use these resources, he said, but the wealthy, they understand these are tools for building wealth, not handouts. Think of it this way. These resources are like a ladder. The wrong way is hanging onto the ladder forever. The right way, using it to climb up and then reaching back to help others. And here's what most people don't even know exists. There are job training programs, not just basic skills, but advanced certifications that can double or triple your income. And I know a guy who went from minimum wage to making $85,000 a year through a free coding boot camp. Small business grants. There's literally billions in grant money that goes unclaimed every year because people don't apply. And financial education workshops. Many include one-on-one coaching that would cost hundreds per hour in the private sector. Asset building programs. Some will actually match your savings dollar for dollar. That's like getting a 100% return on your investment instantly. Here's my challenge to you. Stop thinking about these resources as help and start thinking about them as startup capital for your future. The trick is having a clear exit strategy. Use these resources strategically, like stepping stones across the river, not like a hammock to rest in. Now here's where most people get stuck. They wait for motivation to strike. Here's the cold, hard truth about success that nobody likes to hear. Motivation is like a hot shower. It feels amazing while you're in it, but it doesn't last. Let me share something personal about this. Remember that bathroom mirror declaration I told you about? There were plenty of mornings I didn't feel like standing there making declarations. And some days I felt like a complete fraud. But here's what I learned. The days I least felt like doing it were the days I needed it most. When I was building my pharmacy discount card business, there were countless nights I'd come home exhausted from my pharmacy shift, and the last thing I wanted to do was work on my side business. My brain would say, "You can start tomorrow. You're too tired today, so wait until you feel motivated." But here's what changed everything for me. I stopped waiting for motivation and started building discipline instead. I created what I call my non-negotiables. These are things that happen every day, no matter what. Morning declarations, yes, even if I feel silly. Reading for at least 30 minutes. Making at least 5 business calls. Then reviewing my goals. Let me tell you about my friend Leonard, another pharmacist who wanted to escape the retail grind. And he kept waiting for the perfect time to start his own business. You know what happened? Years went by and he was still waiting. Then he learned the same lesson about discipline. Now he's free from the corporate world because he took action every day, whether he felt like it or not. Here's my challenge to you. Pick one thing, just one small action that moves you towards your goals. And do it every day for 30 days, no matter what. Don't feel like it? Do it anyway. Too tired? Do it anyway. That's discipline. And that's what actually creates success. But you don't have to figure out all of these habits on your own. Finding a mentor changed everything for me. And let's be clear, I'm not talking about those $5,000 mentorship programs you see flooding your Facebook feed. Let me tell you a story about real mentorship that completely transformed my life. I was speeding down the freeway one day listening to Jim Rohn motivational talks when my phone rang. It was this guy named Chris who had called a couple of times before about my affiliate program. I almost ignored it like I had his previous call, but thank God I didn't, because that call changed everything. And here's what surprised me. Chris was 28 years old, more than a decade younger than me, and at first my ego wanted to resist. I was a successful pharmacist with a doctorate degree. What could this kid teach me? But Chris had something I didn't. He had built the kind of business success I was dreaming about. Let me share what real mentorship looks like. Chris took me under his wing and taught me things about business and marketing that would have taken years or even decades to learn on my own. Things you'll never learn in business school. And thanks to his guidance, my business went from local to national, and my affiliate network exploded. Here's what to look for in a real mentor. Are they where you want to be? Not just talking about it, but actually living it. Have they had actual results? Look for verified success, not just Instagram lifestyle posts. Will they be brutally honest with you? You need truth, not cheerleading. Will they focus on your success, not their fees? And are they actively doing what they teach, not just teaching from past experiences? And here's the biggest lesson. Drop your preconceptions about who can mentor you. Age, background, education, none of that matters. What matters is whether they've achieved what you want to achieve and are willing to show you how. This brings us to the final strategy, the one that can start bringing in extra income right away. Here's what I love about the digital age. You can turn almost any skill into income. Now let me share how I discovered this while working as a pharmacist. I noticed my pharmacy was using these discount cards that helped uninsured patients get better prices on their prescriptions. Most people would just see it as a nice program for patients, but I saw something bigger. I discovered these cards were part of affiliate marketing programs. The pharmacies would pay a fee to the benefits managers, who would then pay marketers for bringing in customers. And that's when the light bulb went off. I started distributing these cards to doctors, dentists, veterinarians, anyone who might have patients needing prescriptions. But here's where most people go wrong. They try to do everything at once. Let me tell you about my expensive lesson with shiny object syndrome. While my affiliate marketing business was just taking off, I got distracted by a real estate seminar. Before I knew it, I had spent $12,000 on training, then another $65,000 on advanced workshops. Was it valuable information? Well, sure, but it pulled my focus away from what was already working. Let me share another story that really drives this home. I became friends with the owner of the paint company I was using regularly for my rent homes. Austin was running a small painting business, doing good work, but barely getting by. He was actually thinking about giving it all up to go to pharmacy school. Imagine that. But instead of starting over, we looked at what he already knew. Here's what most people miss. You don't need to learn a completely new skill set. You need to learn how to scale what you already know. And Austin was an excellent painter, But he was stuck in the mindset of nobody can do it as well as me. And once he learned to let go of that limiting belief and build systems, he went from one crew to managing 10 crews across Dallas-Fort Worth. He didn't need a new skill. He needed a new perspective. Let me give you one more example. My student Maria was a high school Spanish teacher, making $45,000 a year. Instead of looking for a completely new career, she turned her teaching skills into an online tutoring business. She started with just 2 students on weekends. Within a year, she had built an entire online language program with over 100 students, making more than her teaching salary while working fewer hours. And here's something crucial about side hustles that nobody talks about. You don't have to quit your day job right away. I kept working as a pharmacist while building my affiliate network, and that steady income gave me the freedom to grow my business the right way, without desperate decisions. Today, my business has helped thousands of affiliates create their own income streams while helping people afford their medications. Here's the proven approach that actually works. Start with what you know. I use my pharmacy experience to understand the discount card business. Master one skill first. I focused solely on affiliate marketing until it was profitable. Be patient with the process. It takes time to build something sustainable. And reinvest your earnings. Use your profits to grow, not to buy toys. Think about it this way. What do you already know that others might need? What problems do you solve in your current job that could help a wider audience? Maybe you are a teacher who's great at explaining complex topics. That could become an online tutoring business. Or maybe you're a fitness enthusiast who knows how to get results. That could become a personal training side hustle. The key is to look at your existing skills and experience. Find a way to serve more people with those skills. Start small, but think big. Stay focused on one path until it's profitable. Use technology to scale your impact. And here's the most important tip. Don't get distracted by every new opportunity that comes along. I call it the master and maximize principle. Master one thing, maximize its potential, then and only then consider adding something new. Remember, every expert started as a beginner. The difference is they chose one path and stuck with it until they mastered it. Don't let shiny object syndrome derail your success story. Remember, breaking free from poverty isn't just about making more money. It's about changing your entire relationship with money. Start with one strategy that resonated with you today. Take action on it this week. If this video helped you, hit that like button and subscribe for more practical financial advice. And drop a comment letting me know which strategy you're going to try first. And hey, here's another video that YouTube will probably recommend for you, so please check it out. Until next time, remember, your current situation is not your financial destination. And see you in the next video.